Is it finally over? Is Mark back? Is he back for good? What does back even mean? He's probable. Does he even play in this game against the Lakers? Do we get the final chapter of the Mark saga? We'll talk about it today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
I mean, how is his back?
I don't know.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. There's Doug Branson. Looks like your back's hurting. Mark, you okay? You gonna fail a physical?
I would fail a physical right now. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's snow. There's like 3 inches of snow outside. The roads are, and in Nashville, Tennessee, that means the roads are completely impassable. So I'm on my own, trying to figure this out. All I would say is enjoy whatever analysis that you get from me today. I just want to apologize on the front end. I don't know if it's going to be cogent, but also enjoy me while I last, because I don't know. I don't know where this is all going.
Well, you can hear his. I mean, I don't know if you could hear any phlegm in his writing, but you could see so on everyhornetsboxscore.com. Maybe there's some phlegm in that writing.
I do. And when I write and I'm ill, I just include extra G's and H's in there so that you can really hear it. Because I feel like people experience me most on a microphone, and I want them to have a consistent experience of me. So it's a lot of.
Mark Williams is back. Asterisk. Hack, asterisk, cough, asterisk. Doug Branson, Locked On NBA with Matt Moore and Hayes as well. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. We do have a newsletter, the Locked On Hornets newsletter, that has Flem in it also. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free right now, LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Hornets newsletter. So a very interesting way that the Hornets announce that Mark Williams is back with the team. So we had seen some reports, okay? IO Handles had it. Prominent Hornets Twitter account said that Mark Williams is back. Okay, doesn't break a lot of news. He says he's back. James Plowright says that he confirms Mark Williams is back with the team. Sports Illustrated, James Plowright, we know him to give you a lot of Hornets content. Shout out to James Plowright. Then we see the Hornets announce it. We see the Hornets announce it by including Mark Williams boarding the plane to go out west. And it's the third picture in a 4-picture montage of a tweet. So the caption on the Charlotte Hornets Twitter account is "quick flight to the West Coast," airplane emoji. And then there's a 4-picture montage. The first picture is of Tijan Salon, Josh Okogie. They're smiling. They're having a good time. They're boarding the plane. The next picture is of Miles Bridges, suited and booted, baby, ready to go. Then you have Mark Williams as the third picture, AirPods Max, smiling on the stairs, boarding the plane. And then the fourth picture, we got LaMelo in there, and he's cheesing. And he's not smiling. He's cheesing. He's excited. He's having a good time as well. So Mark is back. Hornets PR account, they announced that he is probable. It was one of the funnier reasons that you've seen a player be listed on the injury report. I've never seen this type of designation before, Doug. I don't know if you have, but when the Charlotte Hornets PR account tweeted out the injury report, they said LaMelo is probable with a right ankle injury, which is good, and Mark Williams is probable in this game against the Lakers with return to play reconditioning listed as the reason that he's on the injury report. So much funny within the tweets from the Hornets. There is a lot of funny here, but I am glad for Mark's sake that he's back, that I'm hoping he's in good spirits, but also the other part of this that is so funny, Doug, they're playing the Lakers in what is probably going to be his first game back since he was traded and since that trade was rescinded. What you got here, Doug? Talk to me.
I hope those AirPod Maxes have been good for him. I had a pair a long time ago, and they broke on me. Like, they broke on me the day that the warranty ran out, so I couldn't do anything about it. So I'll never buy any of those again. Sorry, Apple. I'm a big Apple guy, but those failed on me. So I hope that those work out for him. The other thing is I want to know if the guy who saw Mark Williams walk out of a clinic that like broke injury news on him. I want to know if he had this as well. I need to check on that. Releasing this of him being in the third picture. Look, if Mark Williams is anything like me, he hops on the bird and he looks at everyone and says, "Hey guys, what did I miss?" Like, it's just like, all right, well, I guess big gulps, huh? We're just going to go do this thing now and pretend like none of this happened. And, it's so funny that it's the third picture when you contrast that with how strong their statement was right after the trade was rescinded. Mark is our starter. We're excited to have him back. And then he just wasn't with the team, and no one really wanted to talk about it. And then now all of a sudden he's been reconditioned, which sounds like some kind of, bunker somewhere that they take him to, and they go, all right, they show him a bunch of pictures to get the purple and the gold out of his head and the purple and the teal back into his head. And they just give him a test, and they're like, "Are you a Laker or are you a Hornet?" "I'm a Laker." "No, we must recondition further."
He went through the lumen testing. He's a part of He's a severed Hornets player now, and we appreciate him for being back.
They showed him 2 Kobe jerseys, one with the Hornets and one with the Lakers, and made him pick.
Which one's real? Which one's real? Which one saw a basketball court?
I don't know.
But he's good. He had to go through a lot of pain.
He's not ready.
Show him the picture again. But now he's
it's so weird. Look. If you read the Danny Chow thing that he just had for the Ringer on the sort of history of the Bobcats into the Hornets, it's basically a sicko constitution. It's a lot of it just really like in fine detail puts on paper all of the misfortune both brought upon themselves as a franchise, but also sometimes just being straight misfortune. And this franchise has done a lot of weird things since they returned to Charlotte. Since they were given another franchise by David Stern. This is not, I don't know that this would be the weirdest, but it's so, I don't know what I expected, but I should have expected this, like this being this weird about it.
It's funny you ask that because I asked, so Evan Smoke Ludwig is the producer of the Kyle Bailey Show on WFNZ. And he's an encyclopedia. I used to fancy myself as a trivia master. I do not hold a candle to Mr. Smoke Ludwig, who just constantly has trivia at the ready in his brain to drop on you at any time, at any moment. I asked him, where does this rank among weird moments in Charlotte Hornets history? He said, oh, it's not even top 10. And then 5 minutes later, he sent me a list of 15 other things that happened. Yep. And by the way, this is like borderline unprecedented, and it's not in the top 10 and maybe not in the top 15 of weirdest things that has happened with the Charlotte Hornets franchise. But Mark is back, okay? Like, we can focus on this for a couple segments here. So, long process. Don't know what it is that worries the Lakers about his long-term future. We do know that his body has not looked right compared to what Mark looked like his rookie season and the 20 games that he played or whatever his second season. We know that. We just don't know what it is that ails him if it's not his back, which we do know that that's the reporting, that the failed physical was not because of a back injury, but it was of something else. And those details were not that. Actually, there were no details on that. So we do know that Mark played against the Bucks and then was traded to the Lakers about an hour and a half later. So he was playing for the Hornets. And Doug, he was playing 30 minutes. So I don't know about the conditioning. Conditioning was an issue for Mark at the beginning of the season, which it wasn't his fault. He was injured. He had a lower body injury. He had a foot injury. So it's not like you can do a whole bunch of sprints. You can't do a whole lot of cutting. You can't get back in game shape. It seems like this whole season has been Mark just trying to get back in game shape, whether it's trade rescission or whether it's foot injury or whether it's back injury last year going into the offseason. So I don't know what to expect from Mark. I don't know how much grace you give him with knocking off some rust, because it's not like he looked very good the last 2-3 weeks going into the trade deadline. So it's going to be all very hard to evaluate with Mark. And maybe you don't give him any grace at all. Like, I don't know, man. What I'm happy about is that we are taking our first step to some normalcy surrounding Mark's career, which he deserves, right? Like, I can't think of another player whose career has been disrupted in this odd of a way, Doug. Like, I know he's injured, but it was so disrupted And I just hate that for him. And I'm hoping that he can come back and play some good ball because it's been a while.
Yeah, odd situation. I mean, I give him grace in the sense that like this had to be tough for him, but at the same time, you're a professional basketball player and you're supposedly healthy. So I'm going to hold you to the standard that the Hornets wanted to hold the Lakers to. The Hornets told the Lakers, this guy's healthy. So I'm going to assume he's fully healthy and that what we see out there is what we'll judge based on that. But obviously, you want to see him improve as a player over the next couple of months because the Hornets have to make a big decision whether to extend him or not, or what to do with him, or what his trade value is in the offseason if they want to try this whole thing again. So obviously it would benefit Mark and benefit the Hornets if you saw an improved version of Mark Williams versus what we saw in the past couple of weeks. And Adam in the Sicko Satchel has a comment here and has high hopes for Mark Williams. In fact, has a bold prediction. Mark Williams becomes an all-star next year for the East due to this trade debacle lighting a fire in him. If I was him, I would use this as motivation to make the Lakers pay for doing that to him. Also, this is just because I also asked for all-star thoughts, so Adam giving this. Also, the dunk contest winner should win $500,000, and all contest winners should win something for their fan base. I like it, Adam. Take a little cheese.
That is hustling the right way. There's no hustling backwards for you, sir. That is hustling the right way. Yeah, we got plenty more Mark stuff to get to. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Everywhere. Yeah, let's dive deeper into that Sicko Satchel question. We have some more in the Satchel. Plus, I want to ask how Mark's presence now affects Nurkic on the squad. Moussa Diabate. We thought these guys were either going to get the starting nods or a lot more minutes, but now Mark is back. And according to the Hornets, he's their starting center. They released it. It's in print. We'll talk about all of it coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Football season may be over, but the basketball action is just heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the excitement than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. It's simple. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you control the action all season long. This week, you could be looking at a Jason Tatum prop for more than 29 points, Anthony Edwards for more than 25. What I love about Prize Picks is how quick and easy it is to make picks. It takes less than 60 seconds to set up your lineup. Plus, their fast and secure withdrawals mean you get paid in as little as 15 minutes when you win. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. More Locked On Hornets ahead. I don't know why I said suited and booted for Miles Bridges, by the way. He was just really bundled up. He looked cold. I don't know what it's called when it's not quite the face mask, but everything is covered except your face. Anyways, he had that on. He looked cold, but he looked ready to go. And he's been the guy that we've been playing more so than anyone with this Hornets team, because after some initial nagging injuries at the beginning of the season, just like he always is when he's on the court, he's been an Iron Man for this squad. Now we got to figure out if Mark is healthy enough to go the distance. 30 more games, Doug. 30 more games. Can Mark hang on? Can he look decent? Can he look good? Can he give Adam some of that all-star potential that I think was there in some spurts his rookie season? Like, it wasn't crazy to think that he would be the best center with Walker Kessler and Jalen Duren, and then this year I think clearly takes a back seat to those guys after what he had shown you. So what do you expect from Mark, and how does that affect the team around him now with Nurkic and Moussa Diabate, his contract converted from a two-way to a multi-year deal?
No, he can't look decent. That's not good enough because the Lakers weren't expecting decent. They were expecting, Lakers fans were excited about this trade because for them, Mark Williams represented a force underneath the basket that could help lead them to a championship. And so if you want to move Mark Williams in the offseason or you want to make him a part of your core, because a guy who's decent is not part of your core four. You got to have a player.
Is that back? I forgot about that. Yeah. Is there a mandate to Eric Collins saying, don't say it? Don't say core four because it's awkward.
Yeah, who is part of the core now? Is it down? Are we down to a core two? So yeah, you can't. You shouldn't expect Well, I don't know what you expect, but you should want a Mark Williams that is more than decent.
Oh, yeah, I want that, yeah.
Right. I mean, somebody that, can hang with guys up top. Doesn't have to exclusively play drop coverage, but when he is in drop coverage, he's chasing guys out of the paint. He's physical when he's rebounding, and he's not making as many offensive mistakes, not turning the basketball over as much, looking more confident on more than just lob plays. Like, we always focus on, the LaMelo to Mark lob, but that's not like a bulk of his offense. It shouldn't be. They should have a multifaceted, when you're talking about a player that is supposed to be a part of your core that you're building around, you should expect more than decent. And so I don't know if we're going to see it in this game against the Lakers, but I'm with Adam. I want to see a Mark Williams who has a fire lit under him, because there may be some physical stuff going on, but I think it's more than that. I think it is physical, but I think the physical is linked to we talked about it, before the trade. Does he trust his body? Is he confident in the version of Mark Williams that he's putting out onto the floor? Because it didn't look like it in those last few games before the trade deadline. So yeah, I want to see a Mark Williams that is playing with fire. And we have this season, we have seen that guy. We just haven't seen that guy for 2 or 3 straight games. We haven't seen that guy when he has a particularly physical matchup underneath. These are the things that I've been wanting to see his whole career, and I'll continue to want to see them until the Hornets move on.
It was the ramped up minutes that seemed to coincide with when he didn't trust his body anymore. That seemed to when we saw the dip in play. So when he was getting the 15 to 18 to 22 to 25, then we started to get consistently about 25 minutes to maybe even 30. And that's when we saw the consistency dip, and we saw his play just overall start to dip. And then when he would have a couple of games of rest, he would come back and play better. But this is the deal with Mark. So what's the impact with Nurkic? What's the impact with Moussa, Doug? So Moussa, the defensive numbers are better for the Hornets when Moussa is out there. We've seen the kind of impact. I think there was a huge difference watching Mark get traded, Moussa get a ton of minutes defensively, and then he just teleports from one space to the other compared to the slow pace that Mark recovers or doesn't recover, if you want to put it that way. Moussa's all over the place. He's hanging up top at the perimeter. We know that he's short. He's going to be susceptible to the bigger bodies down low that can just shoot over top of him. That's always going to be a thing. But Moussa defensively has been really good. Nurkic can shoot. So at least now, I will say, you have kind of a pick your flavor option at center. Perimeter defense, Moussa. Lob threat, Mark. Shooting, Nurkic. So it's I'm interested to see just kind of the chess match with the centers that Charles Lee will choose to deploy with guys that could also earn some playing time. I mean, Nurk showed you against the Magic. He's decent, at least. I think we can use that word. And Moussa has been just downright fun and impactful.
No, Nurk had a big impact in that Magic game. I thought he was physical. It gives them an actual pick and pop game that they haven't had since Grant Williams went down with his injury. And I think that it would be very I don't put anything past the Hornets at this point because of, again, we just talked about his introduction back as the third picture in a tweet. So I don't know. I mean, I would assume that if you said he was a starter in your press release after the trade was rescinded, that you would make him the starter immediately again. And then that leaves Nurkic, I think, as your main backup center. How is he going to deal with that? Because I think Nurkic was traded and thought, okay, I'm going into a situation without Mark Williams. I've got an opportunity to start and play big minutes, which is what he wanted in Phoenix and didn't get and was upset about. So I don't know how he's going to react to all of this. We'll see. But I think in terms of Moussa, I see some spot minutes for him as the lone center on a smaller lineup situation. But that's a utility thing. I think mostly you're going to see Moussa play along. I would guess you're going to mostly see Moussa play alongside Nurkic in a 4-5 situation.
Yeah, I don't know, man, about the Nurk Moussa thing. Just because if Charles Lee wants to preach defense, I get offensively Nurk can shoot a little bit. I wonder if the shooting is good enough to keep Moussa off of the floor, because defensively we know that Moussa is really going to help. And even if Nurk plays with a lot of physicality, they didn't make that trade because they wanted Nurk on the team. It was a nice thing to have a part of it, especially with the idea that Mark was going to be off of your roster. But they make that trade because they want the first round pick. And Phoenix is getting rid of Nurkic because they want to move off of that money. And the first round pick is the most valuable by far for the Hornets to go after. So I do wonder, especially with the defense being, I think, a 10-point difference with Moussa on the floor compared to when he's off the floor. They're better by 10 points per 100 possessions when Moussa's on the floor. I just wonder, especially with the way that he'd been playing when Mark was in the ether, going back and forth from the Lakers to the Hornets. Like that's a good question, right? Like I do think the center rotation now is really interesting because I think Mark is going to start as long as he's healthy enough to go and conditioned enough to go. But the backup center battle now, like they converted this guy's contract to a two-way deal, or excuse me, from a two-way deal. So they mean business with Moussa, and now it's just between these two guys where Nurk, I just, how long is he going to hold up too? You know, so it's going to be hard for me to figure it out. But Charles Lee does have some options depending on what kind of playing style he wants to roll with.
But Charles Lee has already hinted at his thought process on this, which is that Moussa plays valiantly on the defensive end, but he's not sized like a center. Like, this is like crazy. He's not a center. And so, like, if you have to play him there, then you have to play him there. But you sign him to a multi-year deal not because you think he's going to be your backup center. You sign him to a multi-year deal because you think he's going to give you a lot of things, and you can play him at 5 sometimes, but I think mostly at the four alongside another bigger player. And so I just think, like, there's nothing wrong with playing Moussa at 4 and playing Nurk at 5. And I get what you're saying, that they didn't trade for Nurk, but they traded thinking that there was going to be space to play the guy. And I don't know what kind of problems that creates in the locker room if you can't find a solid role for Nurkic. And I think he's going to make the Hornets. I guess I'm advocating this mostly from the fan perspective of, like, Nurkic, I think, makes the Hornets more watchable. Particularly if LaMelo is not on the floor, which he hasn't been consistently.
Oh, man. So what's interesting is that Nurk made his debut against Orlando and Moussa didn't play. So it's not even like we have a hint, but Moussa did play 27 minutes against Brooklyn, and then he played the 33 minutes against San Antonio, where I thought, 15 rebounds. We saw him, he had 6 assists in that game. So, like, yeah, but
after the game, he mentioned, like, Nurkic has the size to play the position. I'd have to pull the quote, but he's given us little droplets that, like, Moussa's great, but
sure,
he's not a center.
It's just fair. I guess you're. No, I don't even know how much we disagree on this. Like, I still think if Moussa was getting minutes, even like when Nick Richards was out, perhaps Nurk will still get the majority of the minutes, but I am interested to see if Moussa is deployed. So I guess just to get clarity from you, like, you're saying he goes back to, like, what, 5'10", like, and we just don't see a lot of Moussa anymore, is what you're saying?
I don't think it's not about not seeing a lot of Moussa. I mean, I think. Yeah, you probably won't see a lot of Tijon, if I had to guess. If they want to win basketball games, you're probably going to see him soak up a couple of guys' minutes down in that front court rotation.
Okay, yeah,
I think he's going to have a role. It's just not going to be his backup center. I don't think 5 minutes. I think 10, 15. Yeah, it's going to be like a 8th, 9th, or 9th or 10th man on the rotation. 8th,
okay.
9th, 10th.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to me. Let's go to the last segment coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We'll rummage through the Sicko Satchel. We have a couple more questions. There is Hallie. Is it Haley or Hallie? We got to figure that out. It's Hallie. Okay. Hallie of the 12th Dwight Howard division. Davis is back, too, with another question in the Sicko Satchel. So we'll get to all of that coming up next on LOH. This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting, wondering, and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. More Locked On Hornets ahead. All right, Doug, let's rummage through the Sicko Satchel. What kind of questions you got for the people?
One more thing on Mark here. 302 of the 24th Othello Harrington division asks, so how are those Mark Williams extensions talks going to go? Is this the equivalent of staying married for the kids?
I think you're staying married because of the financial, because the value of it all. Like, look, man, if Mark leaves, then you're worse off if he leaves for nothing, and then you just let him go. If Mark doesn't play, then his value is hurt as well, and now you're not going to really know if a good team wants you, and if the only team that wants you is a team that's desperate for some center help. I don't feel like this is being married for the kids. I feel like you're just staying married for the financial reasons of it all. It's like, man, it's going to be really hard out here on my own, or it's going to be really hard out here without my partner. I think that's the reason they're staying married, and I don't know how these extension talks are going to go. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, no idea. I mean, you would have to think that the Hornets, if they do decide to extend Mark Williams, are going to get some kind of discount. Here's the real life of it, which kind of stinks for Mark, is that you have the Hornets right now saying, we welcome Mark back, full-heartedly. He's our starter. We think he's healthy. But when extension times come around, you can bet that they're going to get in the room and say, yeah, well, we heard from the Lakers. we got a couple of things here that we're a little bit worried about, so we don't know if we're ready to, throw the full bag at you. So that's just, unfortunately, that's just real life. I think a lot of it's going to come down to these final, 30 games. How does he play? Does he look better than he looked pre-deadline? How hard does he play? How much of a future do they see long-term with Mark Williams? Maybe the length of the extension isn't as long as Mark would have hoped, or maybe the size of the extension. But yeah, I mean, he's not going to get, he's not going to get the full extension for a player of, his mid-lottery spot that he would normally get, I think.
All right, what's the next question we got?
Hallie of the 12th Dwight Howard division says, play a game where you rate the top 10 or however many players in the league by how likely it is they end up on the Hornets sometime in their career. So I have to bring up the NBA ringer rank of players here. We'll play top 10 for sure.
Okay.
This is an easy game to play.
And so you're bringing up the top 10 players, and then we have to rank a 1 through 10 possibility of them ever ending up on the Hornets roster.
Yeah, let's drop it to 1 to 5. 1 to 5 is a little bit easier. 1 to 5 scale, they'll ever play for the Hornets.
Okay.
0. Well, we'd say 0 to 5. If you want to throw a 0% chance in there, you're welcome to. All right, number 1 player according to NBA rank on theringer.com is Nikola Jokic, 0 to 5.
0. He does not want to move from Denver. He does not want to come to Charlotte. I'm not even sure he wants to be in Denver.
He barely wants to move, much less move.
Right. 0 for Nikola Jokic.
Number 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
A 2.
I'll go 3. I'll
Okay.
go 3. I think this is a realer possibility than people give it credit for. Giannis is not as attracted to the bright lights of Los Angeles or New York as maybe some other players are. He likes being in Milwaukee, but he wants to win a championship. And if they fall out of the first round, I think we're going to talk about this a little bit on Locked On NBA. I haven't gamed out that show fully yet. But, teams that fall out of the first round, who should be most worried about, losing a player? And I think Milwaukee absolutely has to be worried about Giannis getting frustrated and wanting out of that situation. Now, the Hornets would then have to convince him with all of these you got to give up a lot of assets. It would be very difficult, but I could see Giannis at some point playing for the Hornets. I don't think that's insane. I don't think it's likely, numbers. But I don't think it's insane.
I don't think it gets higher than that, by the way. I don't know the other players you have left, but I don't think it gets higher than a 2 and a 3 for Giannis.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander could have played for the Hornets.
Everything is fine.
The Hornets drafted him, by the way, if you didn't know. They drafted him. And they traded down, right? Like that's
it was one pick. So here's what happens. We're right, and people know the story if you're old friends of the show. But we're hosting the live show at the Spectrum Center. They draft SGA, who was my draft darling all draft long. I was really excited. And then 5 minutes later, they trade him, and I start to have a tantrum in the Spectrum Center. And Doug says, hey, Walker, I get it. Great stuff. Why don't we simmer down here a little bit because we're in the Hornets arena, and we're doing a live show here for the first time. So just go ahead and chill out for a little bit. They traded down a slot with the Clippers, who wanted SGA, and then the Hornets get a second-round pick, and they just pick the guy that they want a little bit later in Miles Bridges. The last thing, like I get why people, I understand not banging on the Hornets for not selecting Giannis, because there's a bunch of teams that could have had Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's not like the Hornets really missed out, right? But I do think that there's a little bit of a difference here with the SGA, where, yeah, I know they selected him because the Clippers wanted the Hornets to select SGA. It does not mean that the Hornets would have selected Gilgeous-Alexander had Miles been off of the board. I totally understand that. But remember, we were trying to figure out the Kemba stuff at that point. We were looking for our potential point guard of the future, our backcourt ball handler of the future. And he was absolutely a part of the conversation. He was mocked to the Hornets quite a bit. So that's why I think there's a little more credence to, man, the Hornets really missed out on their opportunity compared to some other players out there. I give it a 0, by the way, to answer your question.
And I think the fact that he got traded from the team that drafted him is the only thing that saves the Hornets from embarrassment. Like, no one points to that, giving up on SGA in that draft. No one points to that and goes, ha, ha, like they do with some of the other things that the Hornets have done.
I get it a lot on the text line, to be honest, though. Like, the text line.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm in the national media.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Because he was traded. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He didn't, like, star for the Clippers. Okay.
Right.
All right, let's roll through here. Luka, I think that, that's pretty low. Jason Tatum, low. Victor Wembanyama, low. Kevin Durant, low. Steph Curry, 8.
Yeah, that's a
little Robert Parrish with the Hornets. Final year.
Ugh. I went 2 Giannis. I'll go 3 for a Tony Parker season.
Wow. I'll go 1 because I really think he is committed to finishing his career in Golden State. Like, what I believe him. I don't know why. I just believe him. I think I think he wants to be one of those players that finishes his career with one franchise.
Yeah, and that might be true. In fact, it's the probability, but in terms of like how good I feel compared to the other possibilities here, maybe there's just one twilight season. We done with the players?
Anthony Davis. God, I hope not.
I mean, yeah,
Injuries.
I don't know.
I can't deal with that.
Well, I mean, it's just the whole full circle of possibly the worst thing to happen to the franchise outside of them moving. It's the thing people would go to first, right? It's team moving, and then to me, it's missing out on Anthony Davis after the worst season in Hornets history.
Speaking of that, in Danny Chow's article, he mentions that there were talks about James Harden for that pick. I don't recall that. That's
at number 2, you mean?
Yeah, for the number 2 overall pick. Apparently, there were trade talks for James Harden that fell apart.
Because he wasn't in that draft, right? So you're saying they would have gone after Harden by giving up that pick, is what you were saying. Okay, interesting, man. That would have been
big what if.
Big
what if.
I don't know what to do with that information. That's never been.
I'm going to throw 2 final ones at you. This one's interesting because I think it goes in the Giannis category of player who's really, really good. Although this is different because this player is actually having a little bit of a tougher season. But if his team falls out of the first round of the playoffs or even the second round, I think there could be some movement in that team. And that's Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. A lot of off-court stuff might fit right in.
Man, with the LaMelo Ball of it all, I think.
Oh, well, this would be a situation where, LaMelo's not on the team anymore.
Well, I know, but like, are you going after another point guard that has been off of the court for whatever reason, via injury or via Instagram video? Is that the direction you go in after you get rid of LaMelo? And so at that point, if that's not when he comes to the Hornets, then you're just asking for a twilight season. I'll go 1, and I almost want to go 0.
I'll go 1 as well. Final one, Devin Booker at number 18. Let me get out ahead of you on this one. This is negative 5,000. Devin Snooker will never don the purple and teal.
I'm with you on this. Yeah, he's not that. All guys, by the way, or a lot of them, were players that Hornets fans wanted in the draft, and then the Hornets did not draft. Like Devin Booker was one of those guys that Hornets fans wanted, and then eventually he wasn't selected. And instead, I think Frank Kaminsky was the pick in that draft. So there's another one. I'll go 0 with you as well. All right, that'll do it.
No, I went negative 5. I just need to reiterate. I went negative 5,000. You can go 0 if you want. I went negative 5,000.
Yeah, you went past the Draymond scale, who said 0 when answering how the format was working. He went 0 on a scale of 1 to 10. You went negative 5,000. All right, that'll do it. for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. Doug, I appreciate it, man. Like, I've never seen you like squirming more so than you ever have in your life. Like, and you've been sick on this pod quite a bit, and I've never seen you squirm the way that you squirmed throughout this entire conversation. So I appreciate you enduring the pain.
It has nothing to do with my arguments on this show. Those, I think, were all solid. I'd give myself a 5 on a scale of 0 to 5 for this show's performance. This was my flu game. I don't think people would know that I had the flu if they listen to this. If they watch it, they'd see me squirming. Yeah, but this is my flu game. Yeah. If you want to if you want to hold me like Pippen did, there you go.
Hold the mic sick.
No, the other one. Yeah, the other arm.
Yeah, that's right, too. There you go, buddy. All right, let's do this. Thanks. Yeah, stay right there. All right, this is Doug Branson, Scottie Pippen, everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. Again, Scottie Pippen. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Come on, Mike.